you have to press go live?
No, just, there it is. It's black now.
I hope that you are with us now on both YouTube and Facebook. Facebook, you don't need to check live either. I hope that you're with us now. The system we use for streaming went down for a moment. I'm really hoping that you are. Let us know if you are with us. Let us know if you're able to see us clearly. Let us know if you are able to hear us clearly. We want to make sure that you are with us. We want to make sure that you are able to be part of Kemetic Ascension, brought to you by the Shrine of Ma'at. Let me say Ankh and Ma'at to you once more. Let me say Hetepu to you once more. I am hoping that you are able to hear us. So when you are connected, go ahead and let us know that you are there by telling us where you are and telling us how long you have been part of Kemetic Ascension. That is one of the ways that we'll know that we are reaching to you wherever you are in the world. And it will allow us to ensure that our public services, our public worship sessions are able to reach you in your home. Once again, I should say that I am so pleased that you are with us. I am so pleased that you are here coming together for Kemetic Ascension. I am absolutely pleased. Anika, you have to tell me something. Are we good?
Yeah.
On both?
I believe so.
You want to come here and let me play with it a little bit?
I see Adrian is here. Senator Adrian.
Good. Where? Where's
and,
here? Facebook, YouTube?
Facebook.
Okay, good.
Clico is here. He says that he can hear us.
Good, good. On Facebook?
Yes.
Okay.
And YouTube, I believe, is working as well.
Our our program that we use is called Wirecast. Sometimes it glitches on us. You've probably heard me say it's the most expensive glitchy program that you can imagine. But we're pleased to be able to be with you and to be able to speak with you today. And so I want to make sure that you are with us. Let me go ahead and say once again, Ankh and Ma'at, and greet you to Kemetic Ascension, brought to you by the Shrine of Ma'at. And let me say again that I'd like for you to tell us where you are in the world. Please go ahead and give us a shout out. Let us know where you are in the world so that we are able to ensure that the message of the greatness, of the excellence, of the spiritual forms of your African ancestors can reach to you in your home, wherever you might be. Let me go ahead and greet as well the two members of our shrine, full members of our shrine, Senator Adrian and also Sen Clico, who are actually already on. So I'm glad that both of you are with us. I'm hoping that the rest of you will also go ahead and let us know where you are in the world so that we can gather together and focus on the spirituality of our Kemetic ancestors.
So we have William Humphreys and William from Phoenix.
Ankh and Ma'at, Sen William.
We have Ottawa, Canada in the house. Northern Virginia. Let's see. Anna Rodriguez is here. Senator Anna Rodriguez.
Ankh and Ma'at. We continually see Senator Anna, who has been with us from the beginning. Thank you so much for being with us. Dwa, 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 dwa,
Rochester, we have Harlem.
And you're talking on Facebook.
On Facebook, YouTube, we have Oakland, we have Hollywood, California, we have Cleveland, Ohio. Brother Larry Jackson Jr. says he's been listening for at least 3 months now.
Oh, wonderful.
The Lighthouse brought G. Brooks Brown to us.
Wonderful.
Las Vegas, Nevada.
Ankh and Ma'at, and peace to you from the Lighthouse.
Jersey,
you know that is that amazing community that was put together by one of our priests, by one of the members of the Wenwet, the a priest known as Abu. Come on, Jamar. I'm thinking six things. I'm looking at your face, wondering if everything is working right.
Yeah.
Abu Jamar. So that both of them are streaming now, right?
Yes. We have El Paso, Texas on YouTube.
Texas is in the house. El Paso, wonderful.
Ormond Beach, Florida. We have Chesapeake, Virginia. Sacramento, Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Houston, seems like it's big in the house today. We have someone here from Fortaleza, Brazil, Gabriel Rodriguez.
Wonderful. And we are reaching Brazil, that magnificent place where more Africans are located than anywhere outside of the continent of Africa. We're so pleased that you're with us in Brazil.
Nyack, New York.
Nyack, New York.
Shelby says she's been following us for a year.
Wonderful.
San Antonio, Texas.
Is that the second? No, the other one was El Paso, so this is San Antonio.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And Houston we heard as well. Yeah. Texas is in the house. Wonderful. The Lone Star State.
Abu Wasaret is here.
Ah, we have the Abu with us. We haven't seen her in a minute. I hope all is well, Abu Wasaret.
Sinette Denotria, Nikki Taylor, Sinette Nikki.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
Sinette Abigail is with us.
Wow, full members of the Shrine of Ma'at.
We're at Flint, Michigan in the house. That's Brother Coben's. Dallas, Texas. Rhode Island. Lincoln,
Rhode Island, is
Nebraska.
Is that where Sinette Abigail is? Rhode Island?
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. So.
And thank you, Abu Jamar and Sinette. Oh my goodness, a bunch of people give me birthday shout outs. Thank you, I appreciate it.
Wonderful.
Adrian.
You may know that Anika's birthday was on Friday.
A lot of Maryland people in the house today. We have Cincinnati, Ohio. That's Deborah Kennedy. See, Brooklyn shout out from Brother Clico.
Wonderful.
Initiated
Wonderful.
June 24, 2017.
Yeah, it's been a while.
It says 4 years ago she found you on Sonetta TV.
Wonderful.
And far Rockaway in the house, Rich Duglin.
Ankan Ma'at. Let me go ahead and greet you all. It is wonderful when we hear where you are, Kansas City. It's wonderful to hear where you are. You know that just a few months ago, it seems like 6 years ago, but just a few months ago, we would have actually had people in-house for Kemetic Ascension. But I have to say that the Shrine of Ma'at has always done a lot online, and so it was not difficult for us to transition and to begin to do things entirely online. But it is always wonderful to see where you are, to hear where you are, to know that we are reaching you where you are. And so let me say Ankan Ma'at, let me say Dwan Ter, let me say thank the Creator for allowing us to gather. It is so wonderful that you're here with us for Kemetic Ascension on September 27th, 2020. With that, you should know that we usually begin Kemetic Ascension with the ceremony, the ritual that marks our shrine. The ritual that was put into its order by our shrine elder, Baba Heru Ankra Samad Sebayt. And so we do this ritual to remind us how powerful we actually are. That we are in fact divine vessels. It is called the opening of the way. Please gather with me and do the opening of the way wherever you are. Whether you are in Brazil, whether you are in Texas, whether you are in Rhode Island, whether you are in Brooklyn, whether you're in upstate New York, whether you are in New Jersey, whether you are anywhere where my voice and my image is coming to you, do the opening of the way with us. That means that you shouldn't just be sitting there watching me do it. Stand and get into that position that our ancestors emblazoned on walls and on papyri thousands of years ago. The position that we call the position of adoration. You are going to stand with your left foot a bit further forward than your right foot, like you're taking a soft stride forward into eternity. And then you are going to stand with both hands with palms exposed in front of you, This is one of the ways that your ancestors demonstrated that they were able to send and receive divine energy. You are creating a sacred circuit. You are creating the manner in which you will be able to connect with those other divine entities in your vicinity. The left hand, which goes up, is going to be a bit further forward than the right hand. And you can even feel comfortable putting the left hand a bit higher than the right hand. Now, some of you might be trying to do this. You are not trying to tell someone to stop. You're doing something absolutely the opposite, diametrically opposed to telling someone to stop. You are letting them in and allowing yourself to go out as well. So I want you to make sure that your wrists are not extremely bent. Keep them, if you bend them at all, keep them subtly bent. And you will both give with your left hand and receive with your right hand. As we begin this ceremony, we are going to begin by taking in the divine breath and chanting that word that our ancestors created to describe divine, everlasting life, Ankh. So, take your breath. And as you breathe, try to breathe from your abdomen. Don't keep all of that sacred, refreshing breath in your chest. Breathe below. Let us take our breath and then chant the word of life.
Anetrak in Bethet.
Anetrak in Bedhet.
Nuke in Bethet.
Nuke in Bedhet. Anetrak Hapi.
Anetrak Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Nuke Hapi.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter. Anetrak Serket.
Anetrak Serket.
Nuke Serket.
Nuke Serket. Anetrak Kebsenu.
Anetrak Kepsanu.
Nuke Kebsenu.
Nuke Kepsanu.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter. Anetrak Ast.
Anetrak Ast.
Nuke Ast.
Nuke Ast. Anetrak Amset.
Anetrak Amset.
Nuke Amset.
Nuke Amset.
Twal Inter.
Twal Inter. Anetrak Neat.
Anetrak Neat.
Nuke Neat.
Nuke Neat. Anetrak Dwamutef.
Anetrak Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Nuke Dwamutef.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter. Anetrak Newt.
Anetrak Newt.
Nuke Newt.
Nuke Newt. Anetrak Geb.
Anetrak Geb.
Nuke Geb.
Nuke Geb.
Twal Winter.
Twal Winter.
Anetrak Shu.
Anetrak Shu.
Shu. Shu. Shu. Shu. Nuke Shu.
Anetrak Tefnut.
Anetrak Tefnut. 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 Nuke Tefnut.
Twal Winter.
Anetrak Paut in Teru. Nuke Paut in Teru. Anetrak Paut in Boot in Teru. Nuke and Boot in Teru. Twal Winter. Dwa Winter. Dwa, dwa, dwa to you. Please remember to do the opening of the way. And don't pretend that this is a time for you to simply watch us. We want you to do the opening of the way, the ritual that marks our shrine, the ritual that was brought forward by our wonderful elder, Baba Heru Ankra Samad Sepata. He was given the charge to bring forward the tradition here in the West. He is the founder and the keeper of the Shrine of Ptah. And you might find him at the studio of Ptah because his work, his craft is also a meditation on the divine. And so please reach out to Baba Heru, check and see how he is doing. Make sure that in this very challenging time, we are together. make sure that you are able to ensure that our elder is in good stead. That is so important during this time when so many elders have been taken from us. Please make sure that you reach out to our elder and reach out to the elders amongst us. It is going to be critically important for us to make sure that they are with us and they are able to weather this storm of this pandemic that we are currently contending with. So, I want to go ahead and talk to you a bit about the power of Hesi and do something a little different today. I have really been dealing with some of the challenges that we are being faced with in 2020. I know that this week was a really pensive week, a challenging week for me, and I know it was probably challenging and pensive for many of you as well. I am talking about the continued unrest that we are seeing. I knew that we were likely going to get a response from the grand jury in Kentucky that was going to tell us about what was going to be done with those officers who killed our sister Breonna Taylor. And I know that it has been very difficult for me, even though I'm in some ways feeling very embarrassed and angry at the same time. Embarrassed that I'm not surprised. It affects me that I'm not surprised. It affects me that I expected nothing to happen. And I know that the only way something will happen is if we force it to happen. But I was meditating and feeling the impact of that this week. And so I want us to together ask for that divine energy, that divine, feminine, motherly, protective energy to come forward with us today. I want us to think about the power that they can portend for us as I speak their names and bring them into our midst. And so I today ask for the divine mothers to come forward. I ask for that energy that we call Ast, that energy that we call Sekhmet, that energy that we call Inbedhet to come into our presence, to be drawn forward in our beings and be drawn forward in the universe. I ask for them to give us divine countenance. I ask for them to give us divine power to meet our enemies, to meet them where they stand, to defeat them. I say nek ast en, nek ast en, nek ast en, nek ast en. Protect us, Ast. Nek ast en. Protect us, Ast. Nek ast en. Nek ast en. Nek ast en. Come forward and give us your power. We know that you are that great mother that knows all of the names. And in knowing all of the names, we know that you have the ability to deal with anything. We need your solace today. We need your divine and powerful motherly energy today. We say, Nechrak Ast. Ast, come forward and show us your faith. Face, come forward from the primordial waters. Come forward from that energy of the one. The energy that is all around us, within us, and about us. We ask for us. Nek ast en, nek ast en. We ask for us to come forward and protect us. Protect us, O Ast.
I am Ast, I am Ast, I am Ast.
We ask for Sekhmet to join her, to lock shoulders and arms with her. We ask for Sekhmet, she who is fiery, she who is powerful, to come forward. You can conquer our enemies. You can stand with us, O fiery one, and blaze them where they stand. We ask you, Sekhmet, to come forward.
I am Sekhmet Hena Ast. I am Sekhmet Hena Ast.
We
I am Sekhmet Ast.
Ask we ask you, Sekhmet, to lock arms. Nek, Sekhmet, and
Anetrach Sekhmet.
Anetrach Sekhmet. We ask you to stand. We ask you to join with your sister in Bethet. We ask you, O great mother, lady of beauty, lady of countenance, lady of protection, to stand with your sisters today. We ask you to lock arms with us, to lock arms with Sekhmet as we go forward and confront our enemies, confront those who have been given badges, confront those who stand with law degrees, confront those who stand with weapons and believe that they can take us out. We know, divine mothers, we ask for you, divine mothers, to protect us, to come forward from us, to ensure that we will meet our enemies. We ask for the fire of Sekhmet. We ask for the words and the power of Ast. We ask for the harmony and the power of Inbethet to be in us, to be about us as we meet our enemies where they stand. We ask for you to burn them where they stand. We ask for you to protect us. Nek Ast en, Nek Sekhmet en, Nek Nbethet en. Protect us, come forward and guide us. Twanter.
Twanter.
So I know that it has been difficult for me this week to continue to see our people to be shot down, and I normally say in the streets, doing nothing but being black. But it hurt me, it truly hurt me to actually think about this sister who was truly serving her community, a sister who had actually been working to try to get all of those things that she deserved in life. Very young, 26 years old. It pains me to think of her spending time with a man who truly loved her, doing nothing more than watching Netflix and nodding off to sleep after working in service of our community. It pained me to think of her being snuffed out in her home. And there was a part of me that was angered and embarrassed by the fact that I knew that this justice system that continues to crown bodies with impunity would do nothing to bring those who did that to justice. It pains me. And so this week I was thinking about Breonna Taylor, thinking about the fact that she stood there as a model for how a young person should behave in her community. And nothing could happen as she is killed in her home. Nothing. In fact, the justice system, which is getting paid by us to protect us, could say no harm, no foul. Could say that they were justified in busting down her door at 12:30 at night and killing her. And in fact, only one of the officers was indicted. And let's be clear, not indicted for harming, for killing Breonna Taylor. This one officer stood outside of the building. In fact, I believe he was standing in the parking lot, firing aimlessly into her apartment. And actually his bullets entered the apartments of her neighbors. And the thing that pains me more is that these neighbors are not of African descent. And so the walls of white people mean more, cost more, are more valued than the life of this sister. It pained me this week to think about her lying there dying as the police gave her no aid as she was choking and struggling to breathe. That's the other part of this story that we continue to see that isn't normally described in the media. That when our people are killed, and I would normally say like dogs in the street, but the reality is that this system treats dogs better than black people. That this system has respect for animals and views black people as those standing within a bullseye. And I know that as I thought about her, I recognized that nothing would happen and that she would be killed, taken away from her family, taken away from everyone, and the best they would do is give their family, her family, money to shut up. And that they would still not give her aid. We continue to see that. We see that when we get shot down, they don't even have the dignity usually to come to render us aid, to try to see if they could save our lives. Because they are actually busy doing one of two things. Either celebrating the death of our people. We've heard them say a number of things like, got 'em. We've seen in one case where an officer would throw a taser next to a man. Either celebrating the murder of a black body or gathering to get their stories together so they can make more excuses. And that in addition to that, we saw an unprecedented cover-up. The paperwork for this incident has nothing on it. It says that there were no injuries, although they killed a woman. The body cam footage, we don't even know if there is body cam footage. The Justice Department in Kentucky won't even tell us whether there is footage. And they also are refusing to release the grand jury transcript to describe how that conservative sellout in Kentucky went before them to see if he could get charges for these officers. And the reason why they're not letting that transcript out is probably because he did nothing to try to save her. He did nothing to try to bring those people who killed her to justice. Even though there was a large cover-up, even though we see that she was killed doing nothing other than being a regular person laying in her own bed. And they argue that the reason why this is okay is because her boyfriend had the nerve to shoot at them as they broke down the door at 12:30. They spoke to over a dozen witnesses, and only one of those witnesses says that he heard them say that they were the police. By the way, you should know that he was outside because he was coming home. He's a trucker and he was coming home. Why is this okay? That you can be doing nothing but sleeping in your bed, you could be killed. Those people who have been charged and paid to protect you won't even give you any life-saving aid. Then they'll cover up what they did, and they get to go home and sleep in their beds, as she was doing when they shot her 6 times. Why is this okay? I listened to Joy Reid on MSNBC actually describe her pain. I want you to hear how she started her program on Wednesday, because you can actually see the seething anger right beneath her face. I want you to hear her and feel what she feels. It's so rare that we see people who are reporting these stories to us actually be us. It's so rare that you actually see someone who is from our community and of our community describing how they feel. But I want you to actually listen to her as she starts her broadcast.
It has been 195 days since Breonna Taylor was last alive. 195 days since 3 Louisville police officers entered her apartment after midnight, executing a no-knock warrant related to Taylor's ex-boyfriend and killing her in a barrage of bullets, then failing to offer aid as she coughed and struggled to breathe in her last moments of life. After 195 days, this afternoon, we learned what will happen to those 3 officers and whether justice for Breonna Taylor will finally be served. And what we got was nothing near justice.
The use of force by Mattingly and Cosgrove was justified to protect themselves. This justification bars us from pursuing criminal charges in Miss Breonna Taylor's death.
And you know what? Justice is not the only thing that was missing. In fact, the Kentucky grand jury decision had almost nothing to do with Breonna Taylor. The 26-year-old first responder and aspiring nurse who was stolen from her family and her friends and her community, we didn't even hear her name in the decision today. What we heard instead were the initials of other residents of her apartment building, none of which were BT for Breonna Taylor. And the reason we heard those other initials was that the grand jury indicted 1 of the 3 officers, now former Detective Brett Hankinson, on 3 counts of wanton endangerment for recklessly shooting into the neighbor's apartments, but not Breonna Taylor's. The other 2 officers, Jonathan Mattingly and Miles Cosgrove, faced no charges at all, meaning none of the 3 officers will be charged for the actual killing of Breonna Taylor or for wantonly endangering her or her boyfriend, Kenneth Walker, who were the targets of the barrage of more than 20 bullets, 6 of which killed Breonna, meaning the grand jury did not find any of these officers criminally liable for killing Breonna Taylor, and only 1 of them liable for not aiming properly and endangering the neighbors. After these findings were announced, Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron, who, by the way, is a protege of Senator Mitch McConnell, who was at his wedding early August, called Breonna's death a tragedy, as if her death were akin to a drowning or an accident or being hit by a bus. But then proceeded to make a highly politicized speech that included calling out those who dared to use their platforms to seek justice for Breonna.
There will be celebrities, influencers, and activists who, having never lived in Kentucky, will try to tell us how to feel, suggesting they understand the facts of this case and that they know our community and the Commonwealth better than we do. But they don't. Let's not give in to their attempts to influence our thinking or capture our emotions.
You know, I said it earlier today, and I will say it again. Today's ruling states that in legal terms, Breonna Taylor's life did not matter. That message was heard loud and clear, and not just by Black Kentuckians, but let's face it, by Black Americans everywhere. That according to the theory of the law that was voiced today by Attorney General Cameron, police have the perfect right to bust into your home in the middle of the night if you have any association with someone police are looking for, even if they've already found them. And they can shoot and kill you in your bed and walk away with no legal repercussions. And the only problem that these police will have is if they don't aim properly at you and they endanger your neighbors. And about that right to bear arms and defend yourself in your home, well, you know, that good old conservative rallying cry, Second Amendment. Oh, that doesn't apply to Black people. Sorry. The rule of law, that doesn't apply to Black people. Justice, that doesn't apply to Black people. That was the message that we heard from the state of Kentucky today.
I really want us to recognize that Sister Joy is absolutely correct. There are people who continue to say that we should follow the law and actually do what is right according to the laws of this land, when these laws never seem to work on our behalf. And it pains me as a Black man to know that in this situation, just as we might have seen decades ago during enslavement, there is nothing that Black men can do to save Black women within the grounds of this system. As long as we seek to be good law-abiding people, these sorts of things will continue to happen. This man, who was a legal gun owner, says that he and Breonna continued to say, "Who is it?" as people banged on the door at 12:30 in the night. And when they bust the door open, he fired legally. But none of this, I don't care if it's stand your ground laws, I don't care if it's what is generally called the Castle Doctrine, I don't care if it's the Second Amendment, those laws weren't created for black people. They are justified at killing this woman, this first responder, this 26-year-old. This woman with so much potential that she was writing on social media that she was going to get it in 2020. That she was working so hard. An aspiring nurse. That he can't defend her is what the law says. That they were justified in murdering her. Let's call it what it is, murder. They were justified in murdering her. And if they were concerned or had made an error, why didn't they give her aid when she was laying there struggling to breathe? Because they didn't give a damn about her. That's why. And the Attorney General and grand jury and the entire apparatus of the criminal justice system in Kentucky says that they were right. How should we feel about this? And I'm speaking now not just to people of African descent, but also those of us who are practitioners of the Kemetic traditions, of ancient African spiritual traditions. How should we view this? Why is there such a low value placed, particularly on women? Why is there? Why does that continue? I'm going to say to you that there are other cases. When I saw this case of a woman being killed in her home, immediately I thought about the case that in some ways really forced me to be an activist back in the 80s. It was perhaps the first case that made me think about police brutality in a different light. That made me understand some of the things that my parents were saying to me. And that's the case of Eleanor Bumpurs, who was killed on October 29th, 1984. I was a young man. And that was when I began to think about the things that my parents had told me. I remembered immediately that when I was younger, my mother said to me that what the teacher had told me was incorrect. And that may have been the first time that she had ever told me that the teacher was wrong. What did the teacher say to me? We were in class and a police officer came to visit us. And my teacher said, when you need help, if you're lost, I was very young, go and find a police officer and tell them that you're lost. And I thought it was so cool that this officer had come. By the way, I remember now that he had put some of my friends in cuffs. I was a child. I had no context to understand how inappropriate that was. But I actually went home and talked to my mom about what happened. I remember she was making dinner. And when I said, maybe she looked disturbed, I wasn't necessarily clear about her face before I said to her that the teacher told me that if I was lost, go look for a police officer. My mother interrupted me. She said, no, look for another mother like me. And tell that mother that you're lost. She will help you find your way home. That was the first time that I remember my mother giving me instructions about how to deal with the criminal justice system. I had no understanding of what she was trying to say, but it was with Eleanor Bumpurs' case that came back to mind. That began to realize that criminal justice was not something that worked on behalf of black people. I think I was 12 when Eleanor Bumpurs was killed, and I remember marching over the Brooklyn Bridge a few years later looking for justice in her case. And then I also thought about another case, two other cases that happened recently. I thought about Botham Jean, who was sitting watching sports on his couch when a off-duty white female officer barged into his home and killed him, saying that she thought that it was her apartment, even though his door was ajar. even though he was playing the television, even though his doormat looked different than hers. And what was she doing immediately before? She was sexting her partner. At least in that case, she got 10 years. But she should have gotten more. You can be in your home and murdered. And I know that black folk tend to be people who are spiritually connected. We have served as the moral engine of this nation. His brother actually says that he forgives the officer and gave her a hug in court. What the hell, man? When are we going to look for justice rather than forgiving people? When are we going to seek justice? Doesn't justice have to come before forgiveness? Don't the scales have to be righted before we go out hugging on people who have taken our loved ones from us? You have to follow the continuing case of Adatiana Jefferson, who some of you might remember was playing video games in Texas with her nephew when the police barged in and shot her. They shot her through a window and killed her. Why have we not heard about this case recently? Why is it that this one has slipped from the headlines? We have to continue to demand that these cases are treated properly, and that there isn't a lower value placed on black lives, and then an even lower value placed on the lives of black women. I think about the fact that there are missing black girls and women all over the nation, and there is no outcry for saving them. All you got to do is have a little precious white lady missing for 2 hours and the full force is out looking for her. It's in the media. This person's missing. What happened to her? But so many black women are missing. I remember even around the time that Eleanor Bumpurs was killed, that one of my classmates was missing. She had gone out with friends, and her family searched for her for years until finally they realized that the police had found her, and because she had almost no clothes on when they found her, they assumed that she was a prostitute and buried her in Potter's Field. And her parents were searching for her. I remember that. I call her name today, Nicole Manderville. A girl that sat next to me in grade school, who died and got no justice. Her killer has still never been brought to justice. How could they bring her killer to justice when they treated her so poorly when they found her body? Her parents were looking for her for the next morning, and they did not find out what happened to her. In fact, they never found out what happened to her. But they didn't even find out that she had been killed and buried for several years. This is the value placed on the lives, particularly of black women, that we have to continue to fight for. I remember when thinking of this, about this value placed on the lives of black people, and particularly and specifically the lives of black women, how come we're not hearing about the missing Chibok girls in Nigeria anymore? Now, I know that this isn't happening in the United States, but a life of an African anywhere must be important to us. You remember these 300 girls that were stolen from their village and forced to go marry this militant group in Nigeria? You remember this? You might remember that Boko Haram was that militant group, and that in those days we had a first lady that felt the pain of these missing girls. I know some of you have a lot to say about the Democrats. This is not the place for me to argue that. But with all this stuff going on, we can't even get that. I was about to say some inappropriate words at Kemetic Ascension. We can't even get that guy that is in the Oval Office now to appropriately speak the names of the dead. of our people who have been murdered. And some of you are taking issue with the other side, who at least is trying to argue that the justice system must be altered. He goes to these places and stands with the police. And you're confused about what you should do. What's wrong with you? Are you also placing a lower value on the lives of black people? Remember Michelle Obama trying to at least bring attention to these missing young girls? You know that some of them have escaped, some of them were killed, some of them actually are now wives of those men. Over 100 of them are still missing. And we hear nothing about it. We have to demand that this is a topic that we want to reopen. And I know that when we think about particularly Nigeria, which is the most populous nation on the continent of Africa, more than 20,000 girls have been kidnapped. 20,000. And they found many of them in Mali. By the way, you should also know that many Nigerian victims of human trafficking are found in about 40 countries around the world. And a State Department report says that 80% of all female Nigerian migrants in Italy are or will become sex trafficking victims. Why is it that we're not talking about this? When we say her name and we mention Breonna Taylor, why are we not saying the names of women who continue to be held at a lower value? I think that part of this is actually about the spiritual traditions that are still in our community. I think part of it, I think that it would be hard for us not to think about some of the misogyny in the Bible are actually still reading and worshiping with. I know that in the Bible it says in 1 Timothy, women should pray, men should pray, but women adorn themselves in modern apparel with shamefacedness and sobriety, not with braided hair. By the way, if you have braided hair, it's against the Bible. Are they talking to sisters? If you have braided hair, it's against the Bible. Or gold, or pearls, or costly array. Let the woman learn in silence with all subjection. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over the man, but to be in silence. For Adam was formed, then Eve. And Adam was not deceived, but the woman being deceived was in transgression. Notwithstanding, she shall be saved in childbearing, if they continue in faith and charity and holiness and sobriety. There's a lot there. They're essentially saying that women cannot be in leadership and teach. That's not our tradition. You look at the Shrine of Ma'at and you see two priests, male and female, a man and a woman as the heads of the shrine. That's the African tradition. But these traditions that have been forced upon us that we are now fighting to keep continue to place a lower value on women. And then we're even told that women are of lesser note, are of less importance because it was the woman that was deceived by the devil in the Garden of Eden. And her punishment is childbearing. The pains of childbirth is her punishment, and that is how she will be made right. Women, sisters, did you know that your menstrual cramps, the pain that you suffer with your children, is payment for being deceived by the snake, the devil in the Garden of Eden? That's the book that they're reading? That's the New Testament. We continue to see this sort of stuff in our environment. And I would argue that part of it is because of the tradition that so many of our people are still in. I'm not going to even talk about how in Leviticus and in Genesis and in Deuteronomy it seems to say that a woman who is not a virgin on her marriage date actually could be murdered, could be stoned to death by the men in her village. I'm not going to even read that quote. There's so many other problems with this. But it is you, Kemetic. It is you, the modern Ramesh, that must bring the proper value of women back to our people. That's part of our aim, our cause. It's not going to be enough for you to simply call those names and light candles and tend altars for those women who have been murdered. We have to remind people that in African tradition, women are equal or sometimes even primary to men. That is part of our task. Remember what Amenhotep III did, this great king, when he married his queen, Queen T. Remember how he feted her and how he actually sought to have her be his wife as he builds her a lake that's 1.5 miles long in the desert. And he even has this statue here of him and his queen, almost, I'd say, 4 to 5 stories tall, and she is at the same height of him, because he is saying, I view this woman as my equal. That's how Africans look at women. That's how Africans look at women. And in fact, I think it's interesting that as a foreign king, a Babylonian king, was sending women to Kemet to be his wife and to actually be ladies in the temple, he actually writes a letter to Amenhotep III saying, look, I've sent you ladies. When are you going to send me ladies? When are you going to send ladies from Kemet to Babylon so that they're able to be part of our court? And Amenhotep III actually says, from time immemorial, no daughter of a king of Kemet is given to anyone. He's reminding us that in Africa, women matter. This is the tradition that we should be bringing forward. How about the first maxim of the book of Ptahhotep? He says, be not arrogant with your wisdom. The greatest knowledge can be found amongst the women toiling at the millstone. Reminding us that women matter. Reminding us that women are intelligent, that women are wise, even when they are the hard-working women that are working all day to make bread. And we also see this statue here. Take a look at it. This is Pepi II in the Old Kingdom, sitting on his mother's lap. He is king, but she is his throne. This is the standard that your Kemetic ancestors had as they respected their mothers, their wives, their daughters, their sisters. And we find ourselves in a nation where not only is it the fact that black lives do not matter, but the lives of women, if there's a standard of not mattering, whatever is below that, not mattering more, is where black women are. We have to end this. And we have to begin by reminding the people in our own community of our African traditions and of how we view femininity and the sacred feminine and women amongst us as being equal. That's what we have to do. And as we do that, we cannot forget that those practitioners of the African traditions should also be ready to go forward and fight for justice. Is justice not first described in ancient Africa in the Kemetic tradition? Is justice not emblazoned as the image of a woman with a feather on her head? Yet we see no justice for Breonna Taylor, no justice for Eleanor Bumpurs, and we will likely not see justice for Atatiana Jefferson unless we fight and demand it. I stand here today with a heavy heart. And I thought a lot this week about what I would speak about for Kemetic Ascension. And with all of the lofty things that I had planned, I knew that it didn't feel right, because I had a heavy heart thinking about this 26-year-old woman who was killed in her home, doing nothing but watching Netflix and nodding off. And in fact, before doing that, she was serving her people as an EMT. as a first responder? Don't they say that the lives of first responders are magnificent and we love them and everything? Wasn't there this big celebration, this cacophony that was happening at 7 p.m. during the height of the pandemic in many places, celebrating first responders? Well, why are we not celebrating the life of that first responder? We have to do more. It will not be enough for you to twirl ankhs and light candles. Get in the streets. You may be the last vestige of justice for our people because you remember the standard that we kept. I really hope that you are going to do something. I know I will. Whatever you can to actually place the proper and appropriate value on our sisters, our mothers, our wives. I'm begging you today to do something and to get active. I would like for you for the next 2 weeks to post images and statements on our Facebook page about what you're going to do to ensure that not just that Black lives matter, but also that the lives of Black women matter. Tell us what you're doing so we can share it with the community. I find so often that members of the Kemetic community are doing amazing things in quiet, but we're not speaking as a community about bringing justice to our people. It's time for that to change. I'm asking you to do more because it is you that remember our ways. And I know that you probably have a heavy heart like I have a heavy heart. I know that you probably said lots of inappropriate words, choice words like I said inappropriate words this week. I know that maybe you're hugging your children a bit tighter and your parents a bit tighter and your sisters a bit tighter this week. But it won't be enough to keep it in the house. It's time for us to do something. I'm begging you to share that with us so that we are able to get models of action. Let me say the divine force in me greets the divine force in you. Thanks for at least allowing me to talk to you about the challenges that I have been facing in thinking about the life of this woman this week. Hopefully we'll maintain a dialogue over the next 2 weeks so that we can figure out exactly what we will do. Anika, can you come forward for the final affirmation?
So this was a heavy session. I'd say this week, these past few weeks, past few months have just been devastating. You know, we need justice for Breonna Taylor and all of those Black families that we are losing, Black men and women who are being shot down, tortured, choked, knees put upon them, and it doesn't help that we even lost one of the few people who support the things that we need to support in our communities from the Supreme Court. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, we lost her. And, you know, she's one of those few, Tom, who actually saw people as people and saw us as people who were equal and needed rights and needed justice and believed in women's rights and rights for all people. We've lost her, and now there's the fear of where do we go now?
And can I say something really quickly? Well, with regard to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I know some of you are willing to just write her off as a tomboy, but I want to remind you that most of us don't remember that one of the first things that she did when she was at the ACLU is she sent a reporter down to speak to Fannie Lou Hamer, who had actually been, and this is going to sound so much more like what has happened recently, she was actually sterilized against her will. She went into the hospital for one thing, and they literally removed some of her reproductive organs. You think that this stuff is just coming into the media? And Ruth Bader Ginsburg sent a reporter down there. Who did she send? Gloria Steinem, believe it or not, to report her story. Because she said the lives of women have always meant less, and the lives of Black women have meant less than that. That's what Ruth Bader Ginsburg did. So while she's not part of our community, we have to at least remember that there are those people who are continuing to fight and recognize that something very different is about to happen, and we have to be up in arms about it.
I'm not ashamed to say I cried when I heard that she died. And that's because this isn't about hatred for people. This is not about, all Tom Who being painted with the same brushstroke. There are few out there who are really seeking justice as well. And when we lose the few that have been out there fighting for us, we are even in more dire
We're weaker
straits.
for it, yeah.
So, I do honor Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I'm sorry to see her go. I'm even more sorry to see who's going to replace her, possibly, and how that's going to affect our communities even more, and what that will mean for the lives of women, and even more so black women and black families. So we have to keep all of that in mind. So that's been difficult, but I'm glad we were able to do this discussion today. Thank you for those of you who honored my birthday. It's a balance to try to be happy to be on this plane, but also see all the things that are happening on this plane at the same time.
Yeah.
So, I did appreciate all of the wonderful comments that were placed on Facebook. We ask that you continue to donate to the Shrine. I know some of the donations have slipped a little bit because we weren't live for a few weeks. We are back. We have been live. We ask that you continue to support us, support the work we do, so we can continue to support our community, the Kemetic community and the community at large. So please, I did put in the chat rooms how you can donate both to Cash App at $Shrine of Ma'at or PayPal at our website www.shrineofma'at.org/events. So please, whatever you can give, we do appreciate it, and we do put it to good use. We were happy to see some of you outside at the Tekken during our autumnal equinox. So we are trying to do a few events where we can bring you back into the fold and be able to interact with each other. So keep looking at our website, looking at our Facebook page to see what events are coming up so that we can continue to be together as a family. And for those of you asking about initiation, the process will begin in terms of applications in November. So we will start posting applications on the website in November, and the next class will start sometime in the early winter of 2021, probably around February. So just a few announcements to let you know what's going on. I know there's a lot going on, and we want to keep you abreast. Please sign our mailing list at theshrineofma'at.org, and we can keep you up to abreast of everything and send flyers to you at that time. Okay. So in terms of our final affirmation, please, we're going to do it in the ancient language of our ancestors, so if you can repeat after me, and we'll say it again in English. So, of course, as always, in the pose of adoration, giving praise to our divine Nter and our ancestors, and to Breonna Taylor, we love you, we admire you, we want to give you as much power as we can where you are, and do as much as we can here in the name of Ma'at. So, repeat after me. Nukpu nuku.
Nukpu nuku.
Amiku.
Amiku.
Kemam.
Kemam.
Keperu.
Keperu.
And Unter.
And Unter.
Hayu.
Hayu.
I am that I am.
I am that I am.
A shining being.
A shining being.
Dwelling in the light.
Dwelling in the light.
Of the Most High.
Of the Most High.
Twa Winter.
Twa Winter.
Thank you to Divine.
Thank you to the Divine.
And thank you to all of you.
Thanks for joining us for Kemetic Ascension for September 27, 2020. We will see you very soon. Shem Amenhotep, go forth in peace. Ankin Ma'at. Live your life in balance and continue to do your work. Hopefully we'll continue the dialogue over the next 2 weeks, and we will see you soon. Shem Amenhotep. Are we out?